Morning, everyone, and welcome to Target Center, and welcome to those of you watching on Fox Sports North, online at Timberwolves.com and the Timberwolves Facebook page, and those of you listening on the radio home of the Timberwolves, 830 WCCO, and all across the Timberwolves radio network. This is an exciting day for the franchise as we welcome Ryan Saunders as head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ryan takes the helm after spending 10 seasons as an assistant coach in the league, the last 5 with the Timberwolves, and he was named interim head coach of the Wolves in January of this past season. Ryan offers a fresh perspective as a tech-savvy coach who utilizes his analytical background to delve further into every aspect of the game. He prides himself on connecting with his players and focuses on player development to help create an environment that benefits his players both on and off the floor. In Gerson Rosas and Saunders, the Wolves now have the youngest head of basketball operations / head coach tandem in the NBA. Both are forward-thinking and innovative basketball minds who in partnership aim to build a world-class organization that complements the modern NBA game. To tip off today's press conference, we'll get a few words from Gerson, then hear from Ryan, then we'll open it up to questions from the media. Gerson?
Thank you, Alan. First off, appreciate everyone being here today. It's a very special day for our organization, and it's also a very special day for the Saunders family. To have Ryan and Haley here today, it's something that's very meaningful for us because we want to make sure that this is a family environment, and they represent that at the highest level. Before we get to the Ryan announcement, I do want to walk you through what we've been going through over the last 2 weeks. And it's important to me, and I know it's important to Glenn and Becky Taylor, so our fan base can understand what happened over these last 2 weeks. I will tell you from a personal perspective, it's shown me a lot about our ownership group. It's shown me a lot about our leadership group with Ethan and his group. But also it's shown me a lot about this organization. There's a commitment to do things in a different way here. There's a passion, there's a commitment. We talked about it a little bit in my press conference, but we want to question the norm. And for me going through this process, the message out there was that I had commitments that I had to abide by. There were hires that I had to make. There were people that I had to keep. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Glenn gave me a mandate. He told me, hey, it's your responsibility, it's your decision. I want you to go out there and find the best candidate for this organization. And for me, if I can't preach about what our philosophy is if we're not doing it. And this was a direct reflection of that. We went into the marketplace over the last 14 days. We opened up a process. We talked to a group of individuals who we felt like could be leaders of this organization. We vetted them out. We spoke with them at deep length, but that started here with Ryan. One of my first responsibilities was to sit down with him and understand what his vision and his plan was for this organization. And you have to understand, I've been in the league 17 years. I've been fortunate to know Ryan around 10 years, so I know from where he was coming from, the way he's worked his way up, his vision, his perspectives, his practices. But I couldn't make the decision of who this head coach was going to be without having the opportunity to speak to other individuals who I think are leaders in their fields and could impact this organization at the level that we needed to impact that. And I will say, one thing you'll learn about our group here is we're going to be diligent, we're going to be thorough, because this organization demands it, this fan base demands it. We're not going to do things the way they've always been done. We have to be creative. We're in a position in the market where we have to maximize our resources in this organization. We have a commitment to these players that are here today to build the best team that we can and to maximize who they are on the court and off the court. And I couldn't go and make a decision without knowing what was out in the market. And for me, it was very fulfilling. And I say I learned a lot about this organization because Glenn and Becky were pushing us to do what was best for the Timberwolves. Leadership was supporting us in every shape and form. The market as a whole, the demand for this job was very high. And I say this very humbly, but the calls that we got, coaches that were looking to take NBA opportunities called here first. They're excited about this roster, they're excited about our players, and they're excited about the vision that we have. As Alan mentioned, we are the youngest duo. While some will see that as a challenge, we see that as an opportunity. We want to do things that haven't been done, and the challenges will be there. And I'm a big believer it's actions over words. We got to show you. We're not just going to tell you. But how we approach the game, how we change our philosophy, style of play, how we make our players better, player wellness, that's going to change here. And there's a commitment from ownership to build a world-class organization. Our mission here is to build a modern, player-centric, family-oriented championship organization, and that's what we're doing every day. In every decision we make, we ask for the confidence of our fans to know that we're looking at every opportunity. We're going to be diligent. We're going to be thorough. And this is another part of the process. Having gone through the process, having spoken to individuals throughout the league and in Chicago, we knew where we were going to go. And it was a big confirmation on Ryan, on who he is and what he's about, and the partner that I need and the partner that our players need. It was hard for me to find another leader that could connect with our players at the level he's connected, not just on the court, but off the court. It was hard for me to find a leader that shared my vision of how the game should be played, offensively and defensively, player development, our approaches. We want our players to have love and have passion for the game when they're in this building and in this organization and wearing our jerseys, and that's important to me. So to find a partner that shares that vision, and it's different. You know, the game is going in a different place, and to have a couple of young guys here who are going to question the norms and do things that haven't been done in other places, but it's all with the focus of building a championship organization and taking the best out of our players and making them best. We were very thorough in terms of examining the approaches of our future head coach, how they were going to do player development, how were they going to tie into player wellness, how they were going to tie in with analytics, how they were going to tie into working with the front office and the corporate side to maximize what this organization is. And through that whole process, it became a confirmation that Ryan was the leader that we needed at this point in time. And I'm excited because of what the future holds. I'm excited because you have two guys here that don't know any better and are going to work as hard as they can to do something that's never been done in this city and this organization. And that's what's going to drive us. And our actions will speak louder than our words. You will feel the change on the court. Winning is a process and an approach that takes time. And to me, we say it internally, but the score will take care of itself. The wins will take care of itself if we have the right people, if we have the right process, and we have the right approaches. That's our belief, and that's what we're going to live for until we have the success that we want to have in this organization. So I say all that to say that today's a very special day. I want to turn it over to Ryan. We're very excited about what this partnership and what his leadership means for the organization.
Thanks, Chris. So first off, I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. It's extremely humbling to see a lot of the faces that I've seen for so many years here. You know, I want to make sure that I praise God, because without him, nothing's possible, and with him, anything is possible. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge that right from the start. I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, just that family, what they mean to myself, my family, and just this organization, the support that they show. You know, you don't get that a lot of places. So I want to thank them for trusting me with this post. I want to thank Gerson. I want to thank Ethan. I want to thank just the Timberwolves family. That's what we are, and that's what we're going to continue to be. It means a lot to be sitting up here and share a vision with you, Gers, who I've known for so long. You know, just the way we align, the way we want to focus on these players, the way we think player development is so important to the game, important to the modern game, and really just diving in and leaning into, you know, one, this community, but mostly these players, and putting you guys in the best position to be successful. So bear with me for a second, because I want to make sure to acknowledge as many people as possible, because today, I truly believe today is not about it's not about me. It's about people that have helped me get to a position that I'm in today. So you know, I was told one thing early on in coming to Minnesota that you always have to make sure to do when coming to a press conference. And that's one of the first things ever. And somebody probably knows where I'm going with this. But Sid Hartman, it's good to see you. I'm actually going to tell a little anecdote too, so you know. My wife, who I'll touch on in a minute, she was going through a baby book that my mother was jotting down because she's 38 weeks pregnant right now, and one of the first things in this baby book was an article from USID where it was announcing, Timberwolves Minnesota Gophers assistant coach Flip Saunders has a son, and we actually saw that last week, a little jotting that you wrote. So it's special to see you here. I appreciate you. I want to make sure to thank my attorney Wendy Cohn. Thank the coaches that I've worked under and the coaches that I've worked with. I want to make sure to thank Coach Tibbs for giving me an opportunity, especially an opportunity to be here in Minnesota. It means a lot to me. My friends and those close to me who have pushed me through difficult times, I want to make sure to acknowledge those people, some that are here today. The players, both former players that I've coached, and then also you guys that are here today, and our current players. You guys are what makes this job special, and I mean that wholeheartedly. You guys are what makes this job something that's so desirable. Your willingness to work, and I think we see an example of that today. Seeing you guys, I know you guys are going to be getting to work in a little bit here. I hope nobody leaves a little bit early, but it's good to see that here in the summertime. That's special because that's where this all starts. I look forward to growing these bonds, but then also pushing you guys outside your comfort zones, both as athletes and as people, because I think that's important. I want to acknowledge, I got 6 incredible women in my life I want to make sure to acknowledge quick. My grandmother, and then my sisters, Mindy, Rachel, Kim. You guys are what makes this worthwhile. My mother, I want to make sure to give you a special thank you for just helping me get to this point in terms of you've been the rock for this family in so many ways. And my 38-week pregnant wife Haley, your goodness inspires me to be a better coach and a better person every day. And this opportunity doesn't come without you guys. And lastly, I need to recognize someone who's unable to be here in the physical form, but I know he's here. And he's looking down, and I know he'd say that there's no place else he'd rather have me get my start in coaching. So I want to make sure I acknowledge my dad, Flip, and just thank him for putting me in this. And hey, this is me. I mean, it happens. You get emotional over things, but that's why this is one of the reasons this is so special today. But with that being said, I'm beyond excited to continue as the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm so blessed for this opportunity in a market that's so special to me and my family. And, I look forward to the challenge ahead. And I truly believe in what Gerson spoke on. It's actions over words. And we need to and we will, prove that over time with you guys and continue to get better and better. I acknowledge today's a thrill. But there's work to be done, and I look forward to putting that work in and continuing that work.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Gerson. We'll open it up to some questions from the media. We do have a couple of microphones being passed around, so if you could state your name and your affiliation before asking your question. Only fitting that we should start with Sid Hartman right here of the Star Tribune.
How about your coaching set? Will most of them return?
We're going to go through a process. Like Gerson talked about, he's been diligent in the way he's done things, and I think we all need to be diligent in the way we do things. There's a noticeable change that's felt in this organization in a lot of different areas, and Ethan and Gerson have done a great job of being at the foundation of that change. So with that, examining whatever can make us successful moving forward, we will do that.
Sid, to that point, I do think it's important for us to build the best staff around Ryan that we can. We want him to be extremely successful in his role, but we want this to be a special place. I've said it before, but over time, we want to have other head coaches come out of the staff. We want to have other general managers come out of this program, and it's going to take time and effort, but that's a commitment to these guys that are sitting here today. We want to bring the best of the best to support their development, their growth, and our opportunity to win in this program.
John Krasinski from The Athletic. Ryan, everyone knows how much you wanted this job. What was it like these last couple of weeks as the process played out, as you saw Gerson bringing in other candidates to interview, and how did you manage things going through that stretch?
Really taking it day by day, as I've stressed in the past, but it was hard. It was difficult, but Gerson was up front with me from the very beginning, and he kept me abreast on every situation, and he was very forthright. And I'm glad that this process went on. Obviously, I'm happy that I'm sitting up here today, but I understand my love for this organization and my commitment to this organization goes beyond feeling like it's one person. And I mean that sincerely. It's not me. It's what's best for this organization. And the decision makers have decisions to make, and I'm just glad that they went through the process and they were upfront about it, and it's all worked out.
John, it's a testament to who Ryan is and what type of partner he is, and having known a guy for the time that I've known him, and to understand, let's be real, the family situation. He's got a wife that's pregnant, a baby on the way, and to have that conversation with him in my first 2 weeks on the job was not something that was easy. But at the end of the day, I really believed in my heart it was the best thing for this organization to go through the process. It was the best thing for Ryan and for our players. We want to make sure that every decision we make is an educated decision, and that was part of the process.
Ryan, Joe Schmidt from Channel 5. Your dad used to always say your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. I'm sure you heard it a few times. What would be your greatest strength as the new head coach of the Wolves?
That's a great question. That's actually one of the things that we touched on when we were talking. In one of our, Gerson and I spent a lot of time together, through this process, and where he needed to get to know me even better on other levels. I'd say, my greatest strength that can also be my greatest weakness is my care factor. I think sometimes you care so much that sometimes it can hurt you a little bit. But I'm gonna make sure to ask all the players what their greatest strength is, because I'll ultimately know what their greatest weakness would be. That's something that's been on my mind that I think will help allow me to coach them in a better way.
Ryan, Dawn Mitchell, Fox 9, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think everyone that witnessed your very first victory and saw the reaction of the players and in the locker room with you, there's no question about your caring and vice versa with the players. And Gerson speaks about the modern game. Do you think that is the number one way the modern game goes forward, to have this kind of connection and this kind of commitment that you receive from your players? Yeah,
I think that's one of the number one ways. And I mean that in the sense of I understand and I acknowledge that everything off the court, you want everything to be, great feelings and things like that, but it needs to translate to the court too. And with that, the work needs to, and the meaningful work and the meaningful why we're doing things. And then also, like Gerson talked about, questioning why teams have done things in the past. I understand that's important, and that's what I think the modern game is going towards.
If I can speak to that a moment, one of the biggest things that Ryan brings is passion, and a passion that's different than any other passion, because he represents everything that Minnesota's about, everything the Timberwolves are about, and that resonates with the players. To me, we want to have, when you talk about the modern game, it's about the players. We've got an unbelievable representation here of who our guys are, and it's our job to maximize their environment. We want them to enjoy, to have fun. This organization was in the playoffs a year ago, so it's not a situation where we're resetting. We're reorganizing our vision to move forward, but we want them to have that same passion in order to win and move forward. And I think Ryan not only speaks to it, but acts to that on a very consistent basis.
Gerson, Jace Frederick, Pioneer Press. You mentioned your existing relationship with Ryan before this process. So I guess during this process, what did you want to hear from him, and what did you hear, I guess, from him that kind of cemented him as the right choice in your mind?
So you got to understand where our friendship comes from. I think You know, he's at some point in time, Tim Conley, who's a great friend, connects me and Ryan together, and he's like, you got to talk to this young guy who's super passionate, super creative. At the time, he had put together an innovative iPad in the first year the iPad had ever come out for NBA coaches. So Tim connected Ryan and I saw his passion, I saw his fire, and his perspective of doing things differently. You know, here you have this young guy on an NBA coaching staff pitching technology at a time where that was not the most popular thing to do. But it grabbed Tim's attention, it grabbed my attention, and from there, we were able to develop a relationship, and I understood his perspective, I understood his experience, but this process was about finding the best leader for our players and understanding what his philosophy was and what his processes are and understanding how that vision was going to come to fruition. And the partnership, because this relationship is a marriage. You know, we're not always going to agree. To me, throughout all my career, and I've been very blessed, very fortunate to work with a lot of great coaches, starting with Rudy T, Jeff Van Gundy, and even finishing up here with Mike D'Antoni in Houston. That relationship means a lot to me, and it's one where you have to be comfortable in your own skin. You can challenge each other. You can have productive conversations about not only what's happening on the floor, but what's happening with the roster and how we're going to work together to be good partners and how we build the team. So I needed to hear from him, not just that he was excited, not just that he had great ideas, but how are we going to execute that from an offensive perspective, from a defensive perspective, from a player wellness perspective, how we were going to put together a staff, how we were going to activate our vision on a day-to-day basis. We're a team that's trying to do things that haven't been done, and we're working now. Our guys are a great representation of that here, and it doesn't happen by accident. You need a leader who's motivating the players to do things that they don't want to do, while at the same time holding them accountable for the things we need them to get done. And I felt that confidence in Ryan. I felt he had a great laid out plan and a vision of how we were going to do it, but he was also going to be a partner, not only with me, but with Ethan and the rest of the organization, because this is a different market, and we have to win our fans' trust back, and we have to show them that we're committed to something different. And if me and him aren't aligned and on the same page, our guys aren't going to believe in that, let alone our fans. So that's what I needed to see through the process.
Britt Robson with The Athletic. Philosophically and strategically, what changes can the fans expect from this team on the defensive end?
I mean, I'd say obviously defense, you know, is something that we need to clean up, and we understand that. And our level of commitment, you know, that's going to be something that is going to be important for these players to understand. And I'm glad these guys are here today because, you know, we need to understand that that's where we have to improve. You know, especially offensively, you know, we made some strides, but, you know, defensively, we need to make those strides. Now, philosophically, we'd like to see more. You see in a modern NBA, and it's going to be a work in progress this summer in developing the best possible schemes with our staff. But you see more switching. You can see more double switching, and what I mean by that is, you know, a guy switches out, you get a smaller guy in the paint, and then we're basically going to scram a guy out to the corner. You might see some possible zone at times. You see that's becoming more and more prevalent in the NBA, and then also ultimately just being able to guard situations with the guys that are involved in those situations. Now, we don't want to help off the corners. We understand that our three-point defense needs to improve. So we have ideas and we have things that we want to put forth, and that's going to start in the summer.
Just to follow up on that, to be fair to Ryan, I think part of it is we talk a lot about the modern game, and it sounds at this current era like it's offense, offense, offense. The reality is, if you want to be a playoff team, you have to be a top 10 team on offense and defense, and that's what our goal is going to be. You want to be a championship team, it's going to be top 5 on each end. But I've got to help him. We've got to surround our team, our best players, with the personnel that will be complementary to them, and we need more defenders. So whether that's the draft, whether that's free agency or trades, there's a certain way we want to play, but part of it is a responsibility on me to give Ryan the players to allow him to execute that vision.
Chris Hine from the Star Tribune. Ryan, you took over in January, and it doesn't really afford you a lot of time to maybe implement systems and things that you want. What's kind of your plan for the off season here, heading into training camp, and some of the concrete goals that you want to reach over the next few months?
I mean, obviously we want to move forward And we want to make sure that we have the right people in place, that we're able to work with our players in a way that we can develop them into, one, develop them into roles, but two, develop them into exactly how we'd like them to play within this system. And with that, we'll become more, we'd like them to be able to read situations better, read defenses better, things like that, so things can be a little more free-flowing in that sense. So those are going to be our initial things that we're going to look at.
Dane Moore, Zone Coverage. Ryan, during the year, you talked a lot about wanting to play faster and to be shooting more threes. I'm curious, and having time yourself to go look back at that, and then also to discuss that with Gerson, how do you kind of assess that progressed over the course of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's our numbers were not exactly where we wanted them to be, obviously, in terms of pace, and then in terms of outside the three-point line. But with that, comes you don't want to just say play fast to play fast. You don't want to say just shoot threes to shoot threes in a lot of ways. So it's how you're getting those threes, and we feel that we can find better ways to get those threes. We feel there's little things that we can add that will allow us to play faster. Things that as we move forward will probably be a little more obvious to people, but there's definitely some things that we've been able to pinpoint.
Gerson, it was kind of a difficult situation that Ryan came into in the middle of last season, both with transitioning into the job and then a lot of injuries that came afterwards. But how did you evaluate, just I guess looking back at it and talking to people, the job that he did on the second half of the season?
So it's, our life in the NBA is always about being able to respond to the unknown. And we do our job to try to prepare and be as informed and be as aware of anything that can happen. But a situation like that, the year that was had here in Minnesota, would be tough for anybody, let alone for a new coach who's coming in the middle of it, no training camp, not a lot of time to practice. And situations that are bigger than the current moment. So to me, to see Ryan's leadership, to see Ryan's ability to bring a group together, even in those early stages, to put guys in position to be successful, and how those guys had productive second halves over the season, were valuable to me. I think anytime you can say you're a head coach in this NBA, it's extremely valuable, the experiences. But the reality is, it's going to be a lot different. Having a full off season, having an opportunity to connect with the players, having a full training camp, a full preseason. As I said earlier, our change is going to be felt, and we're hoping success comes sooner rather than later. But how we play on both sides of the ball, the speed that we play at, the space that we have, the reality is our approach is to maximize our best players. And that's Ryan, that's me, and how we put a team together and how we play on the court. But I'm excited to walk this walk with Ryan over the next 3 or 4 months as we prepare for the season that lies ahead, because I think he's going to be energized by the opportunity to spend time with his players, spend time with his staff, and have a team on the floor come October that can represent our vision and our goal for the organization.
Ryan, it's almost like a Hollywood script. You, from here, going to college here, following in your father's footsteps, and you've worked to get this position. What do you think your dad would say to you today as the biggest piece of advice to going forward, and maybe just what he would say today?
Yeah, no, and that's a good question. And, I think he'd say, I know he'd say, and it's probably something that's people wouldn't expect, he'd say, you're your own man. I acknowledge that, my father's a big part of my life, big part of my career. But, I'm Ryan Saunders. And for that reason, it's, he'd tell me, continue to be your own man, trust yourself, and, trust the people around you.
Thank you for all the questions. Now we'll have an opportunity to do a photo op with Ryan and Gerson here with a Timberwolves basketball.